Welcome to another day of Skyline activities. We're gonna go ahead and pop inside here and give you a look at all the bad stuff inside here that we need to get worked out. So all these older Japanese cars tend to have like these Apex super airflow converters. So like old school air fuel ratio adjustments that were made, and then they just kind of up their boost with like a boost controller. This isn't hooked up. It's running wire somewhere and probably up in the engine bay. So we're gonna get this cleaned out. All of this stuff is just like dilapidated, gross. So I'll show you here how disgusting all of this is. So this is melty looking plastic, old school cigarette ash. So I gotta get this all ripped out of here, get this cleaned up properly. I'm gonna decon the interior of this vehicle. I gotta clean out the air conditioning unit. We'll bomb that out. And then for some reason, I gotta look back at this. So I had looked at this before and the gauges weren't functioning. I'll give this a quick little start. And we're still there. So initially I just fixed some of the pin connections in the back of this and it seemed to be working fine. Now it's not. Hopefully it's not an alternator issue. Voltage is still showing good. I know alternators are kind of a typical problem with Skylines and having, issues with the display for their needles. And then outside of that, I'll just probably pull the back of the gauges and check the soldering on it, and hopefully everything's good. So I've never pulled one of these center consoles out of here, but I brought all the tools I think I'll need. So just a flathead, a Phillips head, some little plastic pry tools, and we'll start checking things out. So typically as things go, you just pull these lighters out and you find hidden screws and things like that. And there's a couple in here. Hopefully it's just what I see in front of me. We'll work our way from the bottom up. Some of the top is already kind of coming apart. So maybe that'll be a little bit easier to pull out as well. Looks like maybe held together just by some plastic retention clips or something. Oh yeah, that was pretty simple there. Just a couple little clips on the back side of this. Not sure how this one releases. Release tab on the side there. There we go. All right, get this out of here. I guess we'll pull this knob, do this the right way. The shift boots just beat to hell. I didn't really care about it, but might as well do it right. Oh. And some more screws open in this radio bracket area. It looks like this will probably need the top portion to come out first, or just give some of that stuff a little tug and see if it's just held in with clips. I guess nope. I was correct, it's just retention clips, but for some reason, this, I think just because it's canted from this wiring, it's binding on this section. So all I did was come in with a plastic pry tool and pop from the side. And then this came loose. Now we're back in business. Everything else I would imagine should just be screws and stuff that are in there that we need to take out. And then just all these little crappy push pin plugs we gotta get out of here. Control, sweet. I feel like that should have had more retention in there, but it doesn't. So we'll just unplug this radio and the heater controls. So radio all pulled out. This stuff is disgusting. As I was talking about, really needing to get a good deep cleaning in here. So I know a lot of people neglect these types of things, but you know, when I'm gonna be buying a vehicle, I don't wanna be sitting in that old nasty stuff, breathing that in. So I'm gonna pull everything in here now. So all these plastics are just held in by these little Phillips head screws, and that's just gonna work its way back through here, through this whole back console. So I'm gonna pull all of this out. I'm gonna get all that cleaned up, recondition the plastics. I took the ETC and just pulled the wire so far for the ETC to where that is leaching its power. I'll disconnect the ETC. We don't need that thing in here. So we'll just unplug it from the back. This will get disconnected. Anything that's potentially leaching, you know, power or voltage like this too, that aren't functioning but are probably plugged in somewhere, that's all gonna get uninstalled. So next thing, pull these, get this all disconnected, pull all this out, strip out this interior. All right, so gauges are pulled, just those 2 Phillips head screws, and then this one plug that goes on the back of this board here. So since I'm gonna be reconditioning all of this, right, I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna wind up just repainting all this out because it is pretty beat. I'm going to pull this off, just another couple Phillips head screws, one there, one tucked in right there, and then that'll pull that whole gauge cluster out. And that way I can start sanding it all back and painting it. I'll start that before I do this, just because the paint's gonna take some time to cure, and it's also a little bit warm. But as soon as we have that, I'll start cleaning this out. So I have this steam going right now. I'm gonna steam out all these pieces first before I run some chemical on top of them and then scuff them for paint. Right now I'm just pulling off the little vents from the AC unit. Just 3 big plastic tabs across the top and then 4 smaller tabs across the bottom. Got the little plastic piece separated. I'll add that to my pile. And we're just gonna disconnect this radio bracket, which is holding the radio face and the aircon unit. So I just want this piece in the backside, so I'm just gonna separate these pieces out. So now things all separated, I should be able to get a really good deep cleaning on the tray that's gonna go back in there. And then again, clean this out and prep this for paint. And then I'll just flat black the whole thing. Just got all my screws in that bag. Just give myself a little rag here. Get this rag to wipe these things down. Again, I got this pulled out. I'm probably gonna have to take some fishing line or something to try to cut this out. I'm not sure what this is glued down with, but it is stuck. So we'll just start hitting the other pieces before that. So for this cleaning agent, I'll be using Ulex. It's the same thing my brother's using right now to take off this double-sided tape. That doesn't seem to be going real great. But we'll put this on, little paper towel here. Definitely, if you're gonna use this chemical, wear gloves because it'll dry out your skin. My brother is gonna have extremely dry fingers in just a little bit. So you can see all this crud, and it's like melty looking plastic. There we go. And the Ulex is taking that out, flattening it out. You can see where this stuff's all gummy and balled up on the top. And then this is all flat and has been cleaned out. The only thing with this chemical is when you use it on plastic, it's so abrasive that it's gonna eat some of this plastic up too, which is why I'm gonna wind up repainting these pieces. I can give you a better idea. And we'll see, maybe these will actually not get too messed up. But That's your before with all this gummy nastiness, and then that's your after. So it's the next day. I didn't want to bore you with me just taking out a bunch of Phillips head screws, but if you're looking at how to take one of these apart, pretty simple. So right here next to the seat, you'll see this little section. On the side of your center console is a Phillips head screw. That's on both sides, so one per side. There's Phillips there, and then around the shift boot, there's just a little button you can unsnap, and then this whole section lifts out. For this panel here, you're gonna have to take out the glove box and then also the underside of the steering column. So for the glove box, just the lower portion has this screw here. There's 4 up on the top. So one holds the locking bracket and then these here. And on top of that, to slide out the bottom of it to get to this screw is just a little slide pin. I'll take you over to that. So what that pin is, it's one of these, and that is going to be mounted in here. So it's just set down and locked in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna twist it and slide it over, and then that unlocks the bottom of the glove box. But you can see I'm getting all the parts here together. Have to get over to this other side so I can pull off the bottom of the steering column. Similarly, it's gonna be Phillips there. I gotta disconnect the hood latch release, and then this, I imagine, comes down with just some pop clips, but we'll see. I'm gonna pull out this gauge cluster as well. So this will all be pretty naked. Then I can clean up all this gross stuff that is everywhere. Pull out all these little electrical taps and things because it's tapped everywhere. You can see here, tapped into the fuse box, over here through the radio bezel, going into the engine bay. There's just a bunch of stuff that I need to figure out where it's going, why it's going, and then clean it up. So the way I'm gonna get under here comfortably-ish is I just have this seat all the way back, that column all the way up. We're gonna lay our way in here. There we go. So that is now disconnected. Got the screw out of this right side. Little port in here, what's going on with that? I'm not sure exactly what this is, but we're going to unclip it, get it out of the way. I'm gonna pull this gauge cluster now. There's just a few screws on the bottom, so I can pull this top plastic cover off. After that, I have a little stubby screwdriver hiding here somewhere. It's a little stubby screwdriver, so I can take off these 2 top Phillips head. They should pull out with just some pop clips, and then there's just gonna be a few screws in here holding the gauge cluster, so in each corner, and then one top center. Oh, it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees in here now. There we go. Cut that panel off. We'll leave this bottom panel on, I guess. Take off these top screws. Here we go. Got a little clip back here. Oh. There we go. And there's the screws I was talking about. One there, one here, then one top center. I'm just gonna angle it to the long side so I can start unclipping. Pretty tight fit. What I'm going to do is just drape this towel over here so I don't score up the front of this gauge face. It's relatively clean gauge, only a little mark on it here and there. We gotta pull this out at an angle, and then we'll have to start working our way through these little retainers. So I'm just gonna use a big old screwdriver, right, big old flathead. I'm gonna show you here on the back where the harness is. If I can get it to focus. This little plastic clip there, that's gonna be plugged in the back. Then we just have this last one to pull right here, and then we'll be able to slide this cluster out to the side here where the opening is. It's not gonna come over here, even though it looks like it should have the same space. Just sliding it out this side seems to be the way that works. And out we go. So these little sections here, if you want to change your lighting, those are just little twist outs for putting LEDs and things. Interestingly enough, this is missing some of the lights. So like the, I think it's the catalytic converter light or something that goes right there. And then this one over here is for like snow traction stuff. So some of it's accessory. One of them, I'm pretty sure they took out the cat light. Mine's missing on my GT4 as well. But that's what the backside looks like. So this is left side pin. I work my way from the right side, pulling these out because these have the most slack to kind of deal with it while you're trying to maneuver it. And that's it. So now I'm just gonna get back to pulling the rest of this panel. Once that's out, I'll pull this center, and then we'll start stripping these guts out, cleaning it up. So I'm continuing trying to find out where like these power leaches and stuff are. I find this gross thing. So instead of running fuse taps, they just stuck these wires into the fuses, which are melted through. Can you see that? Anyway, it's all melted. So we're gonna fix that, hopefully regulate some of the power from there, track some of these wires, see where that's all going, and hopefully start fixing our problems. So here's pretty much the entirety of the interior. All of this stuff that's all scuffed up and shitty looking. All that I'm just gonna take down with some steam and some gummy fix, and that should restore the plastic. Everything here is gonna start to get painted, so I'm just gonna start scuffing those pieces up, and once those are scuffed, I'll throw on a little dust coat, just a couple coats of single stage. So these things should be looking pretty cherry. Be a little bit lighter gray than that factory color there, but it's gonna be pretty close. So for prepping this for paint, just gonna use this little scuff pad. This is what I use for majority of the items that are in really good condition and don't need a whole lot of prep work. So this is gonna texture this material enough that the paint's gonna adhere. I'm just running a single stage paint. I'm not running any kind of filler primer or anything like that first. Just this is all pretty smooth already. So, I don't wanna run something that's so abrasive that it's gonna leave any kind of scoring marks. So I'm just gonna run this little scuff pad. All right, first dust coat. And next coat. Paint's curing on those other parts. Thought I was gonna stop the video, but there's some stuff that I wanna get done. I don't really like leaving things unfinished. So I'm just gonna start steaming all this stuff out, and I'll at least be able to give you a good example of how we snap back some of this stuff. So let's, a good example part. Let's use this little kick panel. See this kick panel here, all scraped up, really dyed back as far as the color is. It's pretty nasty. So first things first, just to get that cleaned up. I'm not gonna run a lot of heat on it for a long time, just because it is plastic and it is old and potentially brittle, so I don't wanna damage it with that, but I'm definitely gonna get some heat on here to sanitize this stuff and get it wiped down. And then we'll get some gummy fix on here, and that's what we'll be using there. There's a difference in our panel. So night and day from where we were. But I'm just gonna do that on every single panel that's here, because I can pull this one here and show you the difference. That's your before and after. Look, insane difference, and really gonna change the appeal inside that car. And final update, and then I'll call it for this one, but this is all reconditioned. So all cleaned up, everything reconditioned outside of, let's say maybe like this leather cover. I'll probably do a rewrap on it, and that's just because a lot of that dye is just gone. So I either do a rewrap or I'll just restain it. I have some leather dye.